moving on to the session for today, I will start off with introducing our moderator for today, Dharmin Wade. I'll give you all a small introduction on him, and then I'll hand it over to him. So he has made his mark in the fashion retail industry as the CEO of Sixth Street, one of the top e-commerce destinations in the region. He previously worked at Ernst & Young, and as CEO of LM Exchange, one of the largest money exchange businesses in the UAE and Oman. He took on the role of managing director of apparel group in Russia, and during this time, he successfully operated 3 brands and opened 30 stores over the span of 4 years. So Dharmin, without further ado, I will hand over to you.
Thank you so much. But you know what? Today's program is all about our 2 experts. You know, guys, we are so lucky to have 2 amazing people who have been, making a mark not only in UAE, but around the globe as well. So, I'm going to do a quick hello and introduction to the 2 of them. First on my screen on my left here is Tarek. Tarek is, the founder and MD for TAG Group Middle East. And on my right here is Ralph, who is the founder and CEO of W Motors. Ralph, can I start with you and just let you, do a quick intro about what you do and what is your journey been as well?
Sure, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here and to be with Tarek as well and talk about this special sector that we're building in the UAE. W Motors is a company I founded around 14 years ago. We moved the headquarters to Dubai in 2012, and we've been based here as a UAE company as the first automotive manufacturer in the region, in special cars and supercars, EV mobility, etc. The whole target from the company since the beginning was never about building a car. It was building an industry that is well needed in the Middle East. So building the industry, educating the people, teaching them how to build cars, and bit by bit teaching ourselves what is needed as an ecosystem for the Middle East to be a self-sustained automotive sector. So we're building it step by step. It is a very challenging thing, but hopefully, it's going to be an example for many companies that will follow us in the next few years. And we believe we did a fantastic job today.
That's amazing, Ralph. Thank you for the introduction. You and Tarek are basically the leaders and pioneers in the industry. You are actually paving the way for others to come in and to actually benefit from that as well. So, we thank both of you. Tarek, a quick intro for you. Tarek, he's, like I mentioned before, the founder and MD of the TAG Group Middle East. Tarek, how about a quick word from your side?
Sure. Thank you, Dharmin. Great to be here. TAG Middle East was set up in 2007. We are an armored vehicle manufacturing company. We started building cash and transits and small SUV vehicles to the private sector, and we've slowly been growing. Today, we are one of the main suppliers to the United Nations around the world. We work a lot with the governments, Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Defense, SWAT and tactical vehicles, and we do some military vehicles. Simply what we do is we save lives. Anyone working, operating in high risk and dangerous areas, we just make sure they are being protected when they are in the weakest point, which is when you're moving from point A to point B.
Wow, Tarek, thank you. Honestly, we appreciate everything that you're doing. That's just awesome. Tarek, since I have you online here, shall we talk a little bit about, your factory that you have in Ras Al Khaimah, and I know that you're not from in the manufacturing industry. So can you walk through the journey on why you decided to go into manufacturing, why into this one, and about the factory that you set up in Ras Al Khaimah as well?
Sure. So my career started in marketing. I was behind a desk working in marketing, and it's not who I was, right? I like to do things that you feel, that you see, that you smell, that you hear, and I love working in factories. When we started in 2007, we rented a 1,000 square meter facility in Ras Al Khaimah. And we started very small, started with 4 people, 2000, and we grew steadily, organically. 2017, we got a plot of land also in the Ras Al Khaimah in the free zone, and we built a 12,000 square meter production facility. And we've been growing steadily since. Today, we're around 250 people. We're building around, I would say 30 to 40 vehicles a month. Why Ras Al Khaimah? We wanted to be in the UAE for different reasons. UAE is a hub for the industry, the infrastructure is there, and it's very close to our markets, which are Africa, Middle East, and Southeast Asia. Dubai was just expensive. Ras Al Khaimah had very good service from the government side, very close to Jabal Ali, very close to the airports, but doesn't cost as much as Dubai does. And for simply those reasons, we're there. And we're still there because it's working fine for us.
That's pretty fair, right? I think cost is always going to be a super important part of any of the manufacturing units that are there. Tarek, I think we were discussing this earlier, right? I think there's two other factors, if you don't mind touching up on those as well, which is there something on the environment side? And number two, is there something on the supplier base which is formed around it as well, which helps the armored industry in totality to be based in that region as well?
Absolutely. I mean, because of the location of the UAE and because of the infrastructure that UAE has, a lot of regional offices are based here. A lot of the suppliers are based here. A lot of the customers that buy for Africa come to the UAE and work from the UAE. So that created an environment where all these factors added together helped us tremendously in reaching our customers faster, reaching our supplies faster. Another advantage, all the suppliers that supply the region have the raw materials in the UAE, stored in the UAE. So if you're anywhere else, it would take you a month probably to get some raw material. We can get it in 48 hours. And add to that access to the financing, access to the banking system, the ports, how quickly can you deliver a product from the UAE. All those made UAE a hub for our industry, for armored vehicles. So today you have the highest number of armored vehicle manufacturers in the UAE and the highest number of armored vehicles suppliers, like the raw material suppliers based in the UAE. And I'll only see it growing. I don't see any other country in the region taking that role.
Wow, that's an amazing position that it is setting up, right? So it's basically now a positive cycle which is going on, right? Because as the industry sets up, suppliers come in. As the supplier comes in, the industry sets up, right? And then it becomes harder to move away from it.
Sure, and there are a lot of challenges, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of challenges from being here. One of the biggest is finding talent. It's if we were anywhere else in the world, you'd have local community around you that you can hire for a short period, or you can get university students. They can work for a short period. Over here, if you want to hire anyone, you have to get a visa, you have to get an insurance, you have to find them a house, you have to fly them in, and then after some time, if it doesn't work, you're already sunk in with a lot of cost. So we still have few challenges here, but I still believe that the advantages overweigh the challenges, and that's why we're all here now.
But that's interesting, Tarek. When we say that talent, is a challenge that is there in front of us, right? How would we tackle, or how do you tackle it in today's scenario? And what do you think we should do as UAE to be able to capture or to negate that problem statement in front of us?
I think there are actions being taken. I don't see it being fully resolved. I mean, actions being taken with the 10-year visas, the families that can stay here. After you graduate now, you can stay and live here. But think about it this way. If today an employee is working in a company as a welder or as a mechanic, and they lose their job, and they're very talented, they need 6-7 months until they find another job. I don't think they can survive 6-7 months without an income. So for me, by the time I find this person, he's already back home. I have to, again, do the whole process, fly them in, get the visa, get the housing, and I have to wait 45 to 60 days. And I lost 60 days. And I'm already, negative until I have that person here. I still see that as a challenge, although a lot of steps are being taken, but I feel the steps are being taken more, golden visa for investors, for not for the workers or for the blue collar workers that we need.
Right. And, Tarek, before I move to Ralph for a couple of questions as well, one more last one for you, which is, when we look at it from support from the government, right, other than the talent element, right, what are the other things that we really need in this industry? What are the challenges that you face that you're saying, listen, we really need a government to step in and to help us out with the various different challenges that we face? What are those ones?
So, I mean, the government never helped the industry by itself, that they came and say, your industry, we want to help you. I think the government, what they did that helped us is that they build an infrastructure. They build the ports, they build the hotels, they build the safety, they build the security where any industry can strive. Specifically in our industry, the main problem is that anyone now can go open a shop, build an armored vehicle and sell it as an armored vehicle. And no one can come and look at them and say, this is not safe. And I'm sure, as Ralph would know, when you build a vehicle, you take it on the road, you do all these tests to certify it that it has the right braking system, it has the right suspension system. And there are international organizations like FMVSS in the US, for example, that certify this product. When we armor a vehicle, we're adding 3, 4, 5 tons on it. It needs to be tested again. And there is no government entity that says you cannot sell this product unless it's certified. We had a chat 2 weeks ago with the Ministry of Interior, with the Ministry of Defense, and they told us they're already in communication with the Ministry of Industry and Technology to write a document that for you to open a manufacturing facility in this industry, you need to follow certain criteria. As one of them, certifications, hygiene, environment, after your vehicle is produced, who's certifying it before you can sell it. It is heading that way, and I hope it happens soon. Because, because one of the issue, the product is leaving as a UAE-made product, but then if it fails, it's a UAE-made product that failed. So it's not giving the best image for the local manufacturing. And that's what we're trying to help the government in changing.
Absolutely. I think Ralph has a point that he wanted to make here. Ralph, do you want to jump in?
No, I want to add to it. I mean, what Tarek is saying is absolutely right. As a local support, unfortunately, this is a new industry. And I think coming in with a new industry is always a challenge to build something new from scratch. So it's very difficult to get the support from a government or an entity or even a ministry that doesn't understand the sector we're in. Now, in Tarek's case, it's more into the defense, into the safety, regardless of the car itself, which needs to be built. In our case, it's building the car and getting it certified and tested and homologation and certification that comes with it, which doesn't exist here in the region. So we are seeing a big shift in the last few years, and they are paying more attention into it, especially as they want to create the UAE to become a hub for the region. They saw Saudi Arabia is pushing for that, getting these international companies coming in to set up the supply chain and set up these centers of testing and safety and regulation. So they are getting there, and regulation will come there. But just as an anecdote, when we first set up the company here, we couldn't register W Motors as an automotive brand. It wasn't possible to register that here in the UAE, and we couldn't register the company as an automotive manufacturer. So we had to register the company as a design company, as a product design company. Imagine, we still have one of the licenses as product design because we couldn't come in and say we're an automotive manufacturer with our own VIN number coming in from here. And up until today, even though we're building cars here, our chassis come from Germany with a VIN number which is European. However, if we start building the chassis here, we still don't know if we can actually issue a VIN number, serial chassis number, from the UAE. There is no regulation that gives you the authority to do that and to register it and to certify it coming in from the UAE. So there are a lot of things that are still missing, which we, unfortunately, is giving us even more challenges to build our sector, but it's getting there. It will get there eventually.
Wow, these are some real challenges in front of you, because if you're not able to do that, how do you take the next steps from there onwards, right? I'm sure the future entrepreneurs are going to be thanking the two of you to be paving the path for them, by ensuring that these are the kind of things that actually happen here, right? These are real challenges. But Ralph, you know what? Before I come to you, I just want to let the audience know, guys, any questions for Ralph or for Tarek, please feel free to, put them in the Q&A section so that we can ask them towards the end of this session as well, and get your questions answered as well. Ralph, as we're talking to you, we see some amazing cars behind you. We know that you have been part of a super awesome franchise. Not just part of it, your car was the lead hero car in the whole franchise, right? Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, the story, the backstory of it, or how did it even end up happening in that format?
Yeah, sure. I mean, everybody talks about it. It's been it's been 6 years since the movie's out. Can you imagine? And people still talk about the Lycan and about Fast and Furious as if it was yesterday. And the way it happened was really unbelievable, because it was never product placement. So we never actually called up and said, want to put the car there like everybody does. But we launched the car in January 2013 at the Doha Motor Show, the first car, the Lycan Hypersport, not the one behind me. That's the new one. So the Lycan came out, and literally a month later, we get emails from random, I'll tell you the real story that maybe not many know. So we started getting emails from random, strange, addresses saying fast@gmail.com or productioncars@gmail.com, and requesting to have a car in a Hollywood movie. Now, you're starting up, the company was still very young, and you start thinking, what is this? Is that a scam? Is that real? Is it a high budget movie? And we completely forgot about it. And it took around 6 months, and people trying to reach us, and we didn't answer until you get a call from 2454 in Abu Dhabi, in the media hub in Abu Dhabi, and they reached out to us saying, you're based in the UAE. We have a deal with the Hollywood movie, and they're filming here in Abu Dhabi, and they want to get in touch with you. How can we reach you? So they put us in touch with Universal Studios. It turned out to be actual Universal Studios, and we find out it's Fast and Furious 7. So after the first call with the director and the producer, we realized that they wanted 27 cars for the movie to be produced for the movie. Imagine, just for one scene. And up until then, we had no idea what they're talking about. Why do you want 27 cars? And we started learning about how they make movies, and we realized that if they're filming a real stunt, they need to destroy many cars for one scene. And so I started thinking how much it's going to cost us, to make 27 cars. It's impossible, and the timing. And we ended up inviting them to Italy, to our factory there. When they saw the car, they fell in love, and they said, okay, just name your price, and we'll buy 10 cars, and we'll ship them to Atlanta. And that's what we did. So we filmed the first scenes in Atlanta. In 8 weeks, we ended up building 10 complete vehicles for them. Wow. And we signed an NDA, we read the script, and when I read the script, I realized that the whole scene was built around the car itself. And we couldn't talk about it until the movie's out. When the movie came out in 2015, we were in Beijing at the world premiere, so the Lycan was invited as one of the stars on stage, and then went to LA after that, and it became the most mythical scene in movie history, which is absolutely incredible. So we were really lucky to be there and to be able to secure such a deal at such a young age of the company. And up until now, everybody's really praising that scene, which is amazing.
That is just unreal, right? That story is amazing, and thank you for sharing it, because, I'm sure a lot of people in the audience is like, how does it ever happen that, we are, one of our cars, right? Because, we are from UAE, we are from Dubai, right? So we feel ownership of this one, saying, no, this is us, right? This is ours, right? We are there in the movie when we see the car in the movie as well. So that's awesome, right? But 27 cars, Ralph, how many cars did you build before that?
This was actually before we even produced a single car. We ended up making the cars for Fast and Furious, imagine. So we stopped the production of our actual Lycan Hypersports, and we ended up building stunt cars just for the movie. All of them were destroyed. There is only one that is still here, and I showed it earlier, so it's literally behind me.
Yes.
And that red car is the actual car that was used in Fast and Furious 7. So it's the actual
audience,
car from the movie.
This is like a once in a lifetime view, guys. This is awesome. Thank you, Ralph, for sharing.
Yeah, so we keep this car here, and we recently sold it as an NFT in auction, which was quite also an innovative story. But yeah, so this car is part of our history, it's part of our beginning, and that's where we started. And then everything else you see behind me is what came after, and then many things after that as well.
Well, that's just that's unreal, right? That's fantastic, right? Let's talk a little bit about what you're building here as well, right? Earlier you told us that your factory was or your manufacturing unit is there in Italy, and now you are setting up something here in Dubai as well, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like Larry is saying, just to start with that, he mentioned something which is really important. We're representing the UAE. So when we create amazing cars, everybody's praising it. But when we make something that doesn't work, everybody's going to look at it, and it's a negative point for the country and for what we represent. So we couldn't take the risk. And when I went into that business, I'm a car designer. I'm not a car manufacturer or an engineer. So I have a master's in automotive design, and I took this passion to go and build my cars. But I realized that the only way to do it was to rely on the top companies, the top talent around the world, to make sure we launch a product that is on the best quality to represent the region. So that's why we went to Europe, where we had the expertise. We set up a factory in Torino with the multinational companies, and we started building bit by bit the base and building our cars for the past 14 years, since 2007. But it came to a point a few years ago where we realized that we had enough product lines in our portfolio, we had enough clients, enough cars being produced, and now it's about time to bring this industry now back to here, because we did learn the whole process to build top quality vehicles with the international standards. So the brand was already built, and then we started doing it. So in January 2020, right before COVID, we took this big bold step, and we took a big land here in Dubai Silicon Oasis, which was supported by the Silicon Oasis Authority, and we started construction of the first ever automotive facility. When I say first ever, with all respect to everybody, it is the first one that we believe is bringing the European expertise into here. So the way we design the cars, we engineer them, we build them, technology lab, R&D, and assembly lines for our vehicles under one roof. So this is going to be ready by beginning of next year. We'll be moving there. And in the meantime, we set up the second facility, which we are here, which is a smaller production line for our government projects, which are happening behind these walls, to deliver the cars before the Expo 2020 at the same time. So we are currently in Silicon Oasis, and we'll be relocating to the big factory beginning of next year.
Oh, that's amazing, right? And you know, same question for you, Ralph. You know, when we look at this as an industry, right? What are the challenges that you're facing to set this thing up, right? A and B is, you know, the whether it is the regulations or the talent and every supply chain around it. How does that work for you as well?
Listen, it's very difficult. I mean, in our case, it was building a brand, a global brand, building a company, getting the knowledge to build cars, and trying to learn from it at the same time while teaching others. It was really impossible to get local talent at the beginning to start. So we had to rely on the international. I mean, 90% of our staff are expats, and this is, you know, it's very costly to do that, but we have to rely on this, you know, from Germany. It's the United Nations we run here at the company. So it's great to have a multinational team, but it's not sustainable in the long term, especially when we grow. So that's one thing. The talent is really difficult to find. We did find a lot of, we realized that universities are offering really good quality students, and we started partnering up universities, and we started getting these students that are working with us now. But that's not enough to build an automotive company. The supply chain is something else. Unlike, you know, 10 years ago or 8 years ago, where we couldn't find anything, now we're starting to find a lot of supply companies that are available with carbon fiber, with fiberglass, with electronics, but still it's not up to the level that we're used to when we compare our vehicles to the international standards of USA, Europe, and the Asian markets that are needed. But we are finding challenges into it, and we hope that it's going to change and it's opening up a bit. So for me, supply chain and talent were the main challenges, and we're still facing them, and we believe we will still going to face them for the next few years. But eventually it will change. It will get to the level that we need.
You know, it's interesting that, you know, we hear similar conversations, you know, Ralph and Tarek, you know, that there is talent is one of those big key conversations that we are hearing as a you know, as a roadblock, if you like, right? You know, if we are trying to grow, but, you know, we could grow faster if we had the right talent around as well, right? But tell me, right, a question for both of you actually, saying why even bother setting up in UAE then? Why don't we go to China? Why don't we go to Italy or anywhere else?
Well, listen, in my case, it was building an Arab brand. So the Arab brand has to be in an Arab country. And everybody asks the question, I mean, why can't you be in Italy? I can easily be in Italy today, setting up the whole thing. It's 10 times cheaper, to be honest, and much easier to do what we do. However, it will be diluted in a second. The automotive industry has been there for over 100 years. Coming in with a new brand nobody will look at you. You'll be creating something that nobody will talk about, and the product will be diluted within the market. Coming here to the Middle East was the key factor for launching this W Motors, or launching this Arab brand. And there isn't a better country than the UAE and Dubai itself to represent such a thing. So for me, being here is a great pride, challenge. At the same time, it's the easiest thing for us to represent the brand on a global level. So that's why we chose the UAE.
Thank you. You know, thank you, Ralph. Tarek, please go ahead.
No, I just want to, you know, I totally agree. Back in 2005, if anyone wanted to buy an armored vehicle, you'd look at Germany, USA, or South America, and that's the only way you can buy vehicles. And that was very expensive. It takes a long time to be delivered. We wanted to be in the region. We needed to be in the region. And up until now, if you look around, we can be in Africa. We can be anywhere in the Middle East. I don't think there's a better place than the UAE, although it has a lot of challenges, but we're still here because we choose to be here. There are some regulations with export permits that we face a lot of difficulties, and that's why we set up a new facility in another country in the Middle East, in Oman, that, you know, helped us with that. But as the main hub, it's still the UAE, and I don't see it going anywhere else.
No, it's interesting, you know, so of course there are challenges, and that's probably going to be there anywhere in the world we go, right? You know, there'll be, if not one, then there'll be some other challenges that we will have. But of course, there are other advantages, like you guys are mentioning, of being in a UAE company, a Dubai company, and that helps us go to the global scale and bring those things as well, right? And I think one other point that I heard, you know, Tarek, from you as well, is the speed at which you can get a supplies, as well as your demand is coming from neighboring countries like neighboring continent like Africa or even India and other places as well, right? Tarek, since I have you with the mic, if you like, one of the questions I wanted to ask you about, right, is I've heard you talk about, trying to set up a joint committee, right, of all the armored vehicle companies here in UAE, right? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. Our product is risky. If your product goes in the wrong hands, it's a big problem to us as a company, and it's a big problem to the country also. The country's been putting a lot of regulations about who to export to, who to ship to, who to send products to, and for us to ship one vehicle, we have to go through a long process. As an example, approvals from the country we're sending to, approval from their embassy here, commitment from the end user. They will not sell the vehicle. If they ever sell it, they will inform the UAE government, and that has been in place for some time. What we're lacking on, again, is the quality of the finished product. So what we do, I mean, and Ralph would design a vehicle from scratch, right? He designs it himself. What we do is we get an existing vehicle and we do the upgrade on it. Now, when you look at a ready vehicle, you look at a ready Land Cruiser and you look at a Land Cruiser that's not armored, from outside, they look identical, but the performance is completely different.
Right.
For us as a committee, it's very important as a committee of manufacturers to sit together and define those guidelines, that for us to sell a vehicle, it needs to meet this criteria. And until we do that, you're going to have big varieties of vehicles where you can buy a vehicle for X amount and then the same vehicle is sold 4 times the price. A customer thinks it's the same product, but
right.
There's a huge differences that you don't see with the naked eye. So setting up a manufacturers committee is important, but also for us as a manufacturer to educate customers about what an armored vehicle is and what an armored vehicle is not. We're still trying. Unfortunately, between suppliers and competitors, a lot of egos. That's not as easy to set up, but I'll still work for it. Hopefully, one day it'll happen.
Tarek, it's interesting you say that, right? Because I think this has been something that has been going on in various industries where, no competitors want to work together for setting this thing up. However, I can tell you, and to the audience listening as well, there are many such ones that are coming up and are working together in different industries, right? So for example, in the retail industry, they're getting together and it is really making a big impact because now it is easy to have one-on-one conversation between the whole industry and various departments, for example, of the government, right? And, help them understand the problem statements that are there, and so that amicable solution can be reached not for a single company but for the whole industry together, right? So for everybody listening, Tarek is on the right track, right? We do need to set up this one so that we can together work towards this thing and pave the way for this industry as well. Ralph sorry, go ahead, Tarek.
No, for the manufacturers to sit together, it's not probably going to happen. But as I told you 2 weeks ago, the Ministry of Interior called us and put us together and they talked to us. Yes. That, of course, will happen. You can't say no to the Ministry of Interior. So maybe I'm hoping it will be pushed from the other side instead from us.
Well, whichever way it is, right? As long as it helps the industry, for sure we will do that, right? Because, bringing the challenges out together, as an industry makes a big difference, right? One voice, one conversation, one way to actually go out there and tell everybody, hey, these are the challenges. Let's try to address them so that we can actually improve the industry together, right? Sorry, there was something that you were trying to mention as well,
I was going to add to it. I think it's important to have a manufacturers association and educating the government as well as the OEM and the private companies here. Unfortunately, we're used to in this region to buy cars. We go to a dealer, we buy a car, we pay the price, great. And we compare vehicle to vehicle based on the price tag that comes with it. But nobody understands the process of manufacturing because nobody has seen it before. I mean, of course, I'm not generalizing everybody, but most of the people living in the region don't know how to build cars. So when they see a car, they say, oh, that's the price. So unfortunately, now with the awareness happening, with the new trends of the governments and the authorities that want to go into EV, that want to go in their own fleets and create their own products, they come to us as being, one of the only ones in the region that can build these cars, and they don't understand why is it expensive to develop a vehicle. So the education process of learning how to build a car understanding the process that it takes, the time that it takes, and the cost that it takes doesn't exist. So we challenge, we struggle a lot to sell our products to governments because they don't understand the process that it takes and why I can go to Shazad and buy a car in a day. Why does it take a year to develop an engineering? It doesn't go in their mind. So this is why for us, building a factory is not only a fact for us to be here, but it's to open the doors for people to come in and see for once, look at the process that it takes. It's a 3 to 4 year process. That's the engineering, that's the design, that's the cost involved into it. So you have to know that everything we design from scratch has to be developed, engineered, tested, and built in the end. So this is the challenge that we're facing when we come to sell our products and to make them understand the process that comes with it.
Absolutely, Ralph. I heard a word in this conversation. Absolutely fair, but I heard one word which I think I want to pick up on and to have a quick chat with you on that as well. I heard the word EV, right? This is now become. I don't think it's a buzzword anymore, right? It's a conversation that is completely changing the way the whole industry is working, right? Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing? I heard of so many things that you're doing, but I would love to hear from you about what's going on in there.
Yeah, of course. EV is, everybody knows about it now, but EV 4 or 5 years ago, even I wasn't too sure that where it was heading, because we knew this was an automotive revolution that we're living, but it was going to take time. It was going to take at least another 3 to 4 years so we can start seeing companies picking up and to reach a peak by 2030 where everybody's following this trend. But however, with COVID, what happened in COVID, and we do see coming post-COVID, or we're still in COVID, but post-lockdown period, we realized that the shift happened much faster than expected. So now every single automotive brand, every OEM, everybody that's into this field is going into EV. And this is helping fast track the process much faster. In our case, in 2016, we started going into the EV. We launched Iconic Motors in China, which was a startup back then. They were our clients. We set up everything from Dubai, and we're launching mass production electric MPVs or SPVs, smart passenger vehicles. So fully developed by W Motors, fully designed by W Motors, but based in China, produced in China. And this was the first full electric vehicles that we went into as W. And this opened up our mind into the future of EVs. So a few years ago, we realized that the trend is happening. We have to start doing something for the W brand. And if we don't do it, it will be too late and we'll be obsolete with our ICE engines that are behind us. So we launched the WM03 program 2 years ago, and we're kicking off with the first ever full electric supercar from W brand, which is affordable compared to our cars. So it's a sub-$1 million car, unlimited series production, fully produced in the UAE. So even the carbon monocoque bucket is produced here, the chassis, the batteries, the motors, everything, every component of the car is locally manufactured in our new factory. And the car's coming out next year. 1,600 horsepower, 0 to 100 in the 2-second range, and 450 kilometer range on the battery as well. So it's an amazing car that we're really excited to launch and to bring it to life. And this is in line with the initiative that we took, and we announced that W Motors will become a full electric brand by 2024. So this is coming step by step towards that target that we have.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So you're saying, Tarek, Ralph, that though you will be producing a full EV supercar in UAE, including the whole 360-degree of the manufacturing unit, right here in Dubai.
Absolutely, every single component will be done here.
Wow, that's incredible, right? And the way it is going, it's going to be very much a groundbreaking conversation, right? Because I think what we are seeing till date is that there is a big conversation around it. It's still coming up, but to have a local supercar, fully EV, produced locally here is just amazing. As we speak about EV, Tarek, how does EV work in armored vehicles, right? Does it even work? Is that a conversation that's happening in that industry?
For sure, that's a big conversation happening. And it's happening because the EV is still not there in the armored vehicle industry.
Right.
So today, the US government and the United Nations are giving a lot of supports to builders that can provide armored vehicles with EV. But there's a lot of R&D that needs to be involved in this. Because remember, our industry, we're not developing engines. So we get existing engines, existing chassis, drivetrains, put them together. They need to carry a certain load. And we're still looking around to see what can we find out there that we can utilize to build vehicles on. So a lot of the vehicles, at least that we've seen so far in this region, are smaller size, you know, like Ralph's vehicles. You know, it's very difficult to put armor on those. It'll be a waste, right? So we're still looking around. I know our partners in the US, they started on their first project. They're designing the vehicle that will go on an EV platform, and it's gonna go for tests. So it's not there yet, but everyone in the industry is looking at it because we know it's heading that way.
Wow, that's super interesting. You know, on that note, Ralph, I would like to ask whether, you know, as Tarek is mentioning that the US government is actually supporting the development of EV, right? And is supporting in various ways, whether it is tax or funds or whichever way, right? You know, are you seeing any kind of support from the local government here for developing a EV factory, if you like, you know, right here in the...
I even saw Tari laughing as well.
You're putting him in trouble. You're putting him in trouble.
Let's not answer that. I mean, listen, to be honest,
Sure.
and we're not shy to say it. You know, W Motors has gotten zero support since the beginning. When I say zero support, people think it's financial. Of course, we didn't get any financial support from anybody in the region here. However, the support we're getting is different. You know, it's support in contracts, in licenses, in facilitation of paperwork. This is the kind of support that we got. Yes, but EV or no EV, it's the same thing. You know, automotive industry is a dangerous industry for anyone, banks and governments and authorities. So I don't see this initiative being put. And then second thing, the UAE has claimed and is doing a big effort to support startups, to support SMEs, to support technology companies, software companies, and electric mobility and solutions. It's great. But today, the initiative that they have is to identify international companies to bring them here. But they haven't looked locally to look what's under their nose. And having companies like ours that are working day and night to change the industry, to shift the industry, and to do something locally, and we're proud to say, it hasn't reached that level yet. So what we have done at W Motors, just to let you know, we have created the W Ventures, which will be located in our facilities. It's a full floor, 3,000 square meters, in partnership with several VC funds in the UAE, to start attracting local talents and bring them into one hub. For one reason, to start developing technologies where we can utilize and export to the world, train the talent, use their talent, and start consolidating the tech brains under one roof. And hopefully at that stage, once you have enough companies, enough talent under one roof, this is where the government will come in and say, okay, now that everybody's here, how can we help? And this is going to happen. But today, to have them go and fetch talent and companies and potential IPOs left and right is not going to happen. That's the way we see it, to be honest. And that's how I see it.
Right. Thank you. You know, sorry, Tarek, go ahead. You were going to say something.
I think that's a great initiative. What Ralph mentioned. I mean, we also have a role of educating and teaching, whether it's local talent or customers and clients. And as Ralph said earlier, it's a dangerous business. I mean, you're in a vehicle, you're driving. It has to be built properly. So we also have a role in educating. Well, I'm not going to say the government, but the talent. So now what we do, we get people. We have a training institute. We tell them how to build an armored vehicle, how to weld an armored vehicle, how to do X, Y, Z on an armored vehicle. And part of our sale process is not only to sell a product, but to take the customer on a tour on the facility, show them how a vehicle is built, and telling him this is what a vehicle needs, so that then when they go around shopping, at least they can ask the right question. And we've been seeing a trend where the customers now are a little more educated. They know what they want, and they know what's a good product and a bad product. And I think we all have a role to do there.
Yeah. No, absolutely, guys. Absolutely, right. And I think that goes back to that conversation of you saying, you know, certification of those vehicles as well, right? And so again, you know, that education will help in getting to those conversations. You know, let me jump into, although I have so many more questions for you guys, but let me jump into the questions that the audience is asking, so that, you know, maybe we can try and respond to a couple of those ones, and for the audience as well, right? Okay. There is a question, guys, which is, how does the climate in the Middle East affect manufacturing with the intense heat, dust, sand, and all the other difficulties that you have faced? You know, so guys, anybody would like to
I think for
I don't know
Tarek,
if
it
you can
actually
pick it up.
helps him. For Tarek, it helps him to test the cars in an intense environment. For him, I think it's the perfect scenario.
It helps us to test it. So when we sell the vehicle, we say it's been tested at 50 degrees in the desert, which is great, but it doesn't help when the guys are building the vehicle. It does get very hot. We use welding machines. A lot of heat is being produced. We have a plan now. We're putting an air conditioning system, but you know, to put it on a 10,000 square meter production facility that emits heat is a bit of big project. And people always think that electricity is cheap in the Middle East because we have a lot of oil, but it's not. So going back to government support, I think this is where a lot of help can happen is on the DIWA or FIWA bill. But yeah, the climate doesn't help, especially in the summer. Production does reduce a bit, and working hours change also. So now we have night shifts, so we work more at night than during the day.
Interesting, very interesting. So actually, the weather does not help the conversation, and that you would.
It helps in the
And
winter. It doesn't help in the
in the
summer.
winter. Right, and that's another support, and that's another challenge, basically, right? That is a challenge that we do face locally, and we would love, help and support for this challenge that we face as well, right? Ralph, anything that you want to add into it?
No, I think for me, unlike Tyre, I'm actually freezing right now. So we are equipped with AC. No, but for us, it's mainly the testing, because our cars have to be tested daily outside. For several reasons, electronics testing, all these things.
Yes.
And usually with the summer, the performance of the vehicle sometimes reduces a bit because of the heat of the engine. Actually, is quite more difficult to actually get the real numbers of the car. But yeah, and just to defend the UAE a little bit when it comes to the weather, it's the same thing if you were in Europe. In Europe, in winter, it's snowing, it's freezing, and also the warehouses and factories don't have a heater or AC as well. So it's the same issues we face in Europe, but here it's only a few months a year in an opposite way. Exactly.
Right. Got it. I think there's an interesting question, one of those that I had actually in my question for you guys as well. So let me pick it up, right? So the question is, by setting a fresh manufacturing unit in the UAE, did it allow you to skip legacy manufacturing processes and directly adopt automation or robotics or Industry 4.0 technologies?
It's a good question. Maybe Tyre, you want to start? Or? So Industry 4.0 is a main topic as everybody's talking about. We're actually adapting Motorsport 4.0 along with Industry 4.0. We're putting it both together. And I think we need one session just for that later on. But just for Industry 4.0, and I did speak a lot about it, it's not about only the manufacturing process. It's not about only how you build the cars, because in my case and Tarek's case, it's manual labor, it's talent, it's expertise that's done hand-built vehicles. And this is how we actually guarantee the vehicles to be in the top quality as we wish to be with the volumes that we have. But Industry 4.0 comes in different ways. The robotics come in with automated racking system, with automated paint booths, let's say, with the supply being stored properly. The system knows what's missing, automatically gives an order to the supplier. The second thing is, as we live in a country or in a territory, as we mentioned earlier, that talent doesn't exist. Or will exist, but in a very limited way. Yeah. We need to train the people. And what best way to train the people than adapting an Industry 4.0 and VR and AI within the manufacturing process? So we're implementing these QR codes within the products and between each parts that we produce. So every QR code is connected to a manual, which is only when you wear the mask, you can start seeing how it's built and how to assemble it. So anybody, even with zero training, that comes in during the first day of assembly, comes to the assembly line, sees the part, wears the mask. As soon as he scans the part, it tells him where it should go, how to weld it, how to attach it, where are the brackets, so you get to learn while you're actually building and doing it. And this is the kind of Industry 4.0 that we're adapting into our facility. However, as a manufacturing process, it is the same as manual, just to be able to build and feel the vehicles when you build them.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, because when you say that, people always think of a robot that's welding a vehicle, that's vehicles moving on the line, and that would work if you're building 1,000 F-150 on a production line with Ford. But with what we do, there's a lot of changes. Every vehicle is a little different. But very similar to what Ralph said, something we did is on the customer side also, where we go visit a customer, they can't come to our facility, they put the headset on and they have a tour of our facility. They see the vehicle being built, they see the inside of their vehicle. So when they get the vehicle, it looks nice. but they can sit and see how it was built, how it was welded, what happened inside it. So this is where the changes are happening. And we decided to be very agile, right? Because to lead the change can be very expensive and a lot of trial and error. But we decided to be very agile, that we're always listening to the customers, everything that's being implemented, everything that's being worked. It's very easy for us to shift and ride the new wave of whatever is advancing.
Quite interesting, guys. That is honestly like an amazing learning. Even like, when I'm thinking about it, that's just amazing what you guys are doing. So, but what I hear is that actually it is not the traditional methodology, nor is it the absolute advanced sci-fi methodology that we see, I don't know, on TV. That is there. It's somewhere in the middle, right? It's like saying, hey, listen, there is a role in somewhere in the middle that is actually working well for both of you. Is that fair to say? Another interesting question which has come up is that, are you using any kind of 3D printing in the manufacturing of the metal parts that you guys have, or any other parts that you guys use?
Of course, I mean, for us, 3D printing is a key for anything we do. And it's new to us, so we started adapting it around 3 years ago. We have several 3D printers in our facilities that we use first in the development phase to build the small prototypes before doing the mold and the tooling and actually testing it. Second is we actually do 3D printed parts for the vehicle assembly. So some brackets are built in 3D printing, some engine parts are built in 3D printing. Either it is in resin or it is in metal. We actually adapt it very well. And there are many, many advanced companies in the UAE offering these services, which are excellent on the top international level, that we also work with to do these parts, yeah.
In our case, we haven't, no, not really. But me and Ralph did have a chat once about that, and we still have to, carry on from where we left it. But as of now, remember, we work a lot with ballistic steel, so it has to have a certain strength, it has to have a certain power. So moving to that is a bit difficult at this stage.
So, Tarek, are you saying that the 3D technology is not yet there, in regards to trying to get those strength on that metal or anything else? Is that what it is?
No, unfortunately not. And there's been a lot of talk about composites and changing to lightweight items, but I haven't seen it. And looking around globally, I haven't seen it. This material can be, just like everything else, when it's first developed, it's very expensive. To put it on a vehicle, right, it's going to be very expensive. To put it on body armor, to put it on helmets, this is where it's starting. And just like everything else, with time, costs will go down and the implementation will be rolled out to, hopefully, to the vehicles. But as of now, not yet.
As of now, not yet, right? But, I mean, I would have thought this is, I mean, Tarek, the industry that you are in, you are the largest supplier of armored vehicle in the US, right? And you keep like, your armored vehicles are keeping many amazing people in Africa safe as well, right? You're doing tons of stuff, which is very cutting edge and like really, technology forward as well, right? Usually we see like the US Army and everybody else supporting these things. So there must be a lot of innovations taking place in this industry currently, right?
Oh, there is, and the governments do support it. But again, it's 90% in the US. It's US taxpayers' money that goes to US builders for US made vehicles and US made products. So this is where you see a lot of this investment and a lot of this technology. Now, we do have an office in the US. We work closely with them, and we do share a lot of this. But as an implementation here in the UAE, it's not there yet. We'll see.
Got it. Guys, continuing on that manufacturing challenges, right? We have another really interesting question as well. For anyone who wants to make a transition from being a distributor/trader to a manufacturer, right? What is the advice that you would give them? What are the pitfalls that you would tell them to be aware of? And lastly, what are the advantages that you did not realize or did not expect, but it did end up becoming an advantage for you?
Well, I can start, manufacturing the big capex. So you need machines, you need tools, you need production lines, you need, and that's a lot of money to put, and there's a lot of OPEX, right? So first you need a lot of capital to get into manufacturing. But before getting into manufacturing, I think the better question is why to get into manufacturing and what to manufacture and why is that product being manufactured. And that goes back to the purpose of what is a business, what is a business therefore. But yeah, it's not like I don't know, opening a flexi desk, getting a license, and seeing how it goes. You're already you need to invest big to start and then see how it works from there. In our case, we started at the right time, 2007. No one was building in the region. I started with 4 guys, and we organically grew as the market required. But yeah, it's not that easy. So I'll go back to the first question: why into manufacturing, and to manufacture what? I don't know what Ralph
Right.
like to add to that.
Yeah, and I would add to it. I said, stick to you being a dealer and a distributor, and don't go into that. Listen, I'll tell you what. I mean, everybody gets excited about going into manufacturing. It is the most challenging thing, especially when you're building cars. It's the most challenging thing you can ever do, and it takes years and years. And like Tarek is saying, capex and heavy pockets and investments and losses, and so it's a big thing. And it depends on what is the purpose of it. So if it's building for one brand, I strongly don't recommend it. If you're building a factory just to build a brand of cars, don't do it. Either you're doing it as a contract manufacturer where you're building, it's a hub for several brands to come in and to produce for them, then yes, it is a business, it's very viable. It will help a lot of companies come in and set up manufacturing facilities in regions they want to reach, or go into an assembly line, which is an SKD or a CKD assembly line, where you can enter territories with existing vehicles without developing the vehicle. You do a deal with these companies, set up an SKD, the investment is minimal compared to a manufacturing facility, and you get to enter with a product and you can claim that you're building the cars locally. But I wouldn't recommend at all going into full-fledged automotive manufacturing. Leave it to us. I mean, we've seen it all. We've done it, so we don't need anybody else to suffer after us, trust me.
Is there, I think one element of the question was, were there any advantages that you realized you had that you did not expect, when you started off doing this one?
Listen, for us, the advantage we realized was a couple of years ago, when we realized that we are actually the only ones in this region offering our services. And our services are not as a brand of a car brand, but as automotive mobility service when it comes to design, manufacturing, prototyping, show cars, production, the whole turnkey solution. And that's when we realized the potential of growing the brand into an automotive special projects consultant. And this was the reason the company grew to where it is today organically. That's the reason why we're expanding. We set up a factory because we started getting deals that we never thought 10 or 12 years ago we're going to do. For us, it was always, let's make these fast, beautiful, sexy cars. But the business is not there. The business is in the government deals, is in the mobility sector, is in the autonomous cars, in the electric buses, the commercial vehicles. This is where we saw that the potential is. And we realized that we're the only ones offering these services. So yeah.
Interesting. Tarek, anything that you'd like to add, in regards to any advantages that you saw or you realized that you were not expecting?
We were at the right time and the right place. Remember, 2007, there was a lot of uncertainties around the region, and armored vehicles were only for presidents and ministers, and then slowly company CEOs. And today, for example, any oil company operating in Africa, all their executives need to be in armored vehicles as part of the contract. So we were there when the business was growing. And back then, the other option was to go to Germany or the US, where the Germans would tell you, give me 5 months and I'll supply you a vehicle. Our advantage, we were very agile. We were very close. We were very agile. We were very quick. 30 days, we put the vehicle in Jabal Ali, and in 30 days, it's anywhere in Africa you want. So that gave us a big advantage. A lot of other companies try to ride that wave. We were one of the very few that got to where we are today, because going back to Ralph said, manufacturing is not as easy as someone would think. Everyone would just think of this nice, busy production line, but there are a lot of things that go into it. And mistakes are heavy, they're very expensive. So yeah, right place, right time, stick to values and culture, and that's what got us there.
Thank you, guys. Those are some really good insights that, for our listeners here on this show, right? There's a couple of questions, Ralph, coming up for you, right? Tarek, I think this probably is not the one that you would want to discuss, which is speed records, right? So one of our listeners is asking, any plans to set speed records and benchmarks, Ralph?
Of course. I mean, don't forget, every product we create has a different target. So the Lincoln that came out in 2012, 2013, It was never about the performance or the speed or the power. It's just about being unique and special in every way. Only 7 cars are ever built in the world. So it wasn't meant to be driven, highly driven, by professionals around the world, just collectors buying it, even though it is an incredible car to drive. The Veneer that we built that's behind me, it is 800 horsepower, 1,000 torque. It's an incredible car. We've been on all the international races around the world with these cars, and the performance is just mind-blowing. But it was never also about to break a record. However, the EV car, the electric car that's coming out, the whole point of it is to do something completely opposite than what the competition is doing. Knowing that there are 3 competitors for us in the EV sector for the supercars that are coming out this year and next year, all of them claiming and doing an incredible job, an amazing product, but all at a $2.5 million to $3 million price range. So we're coming out with a product that's around 600,000 plus, offering incredible performances. And the target is, before the launch of the car, is to have 3 world records broken, not necessarily in speed, but in several different things when it comes to EV and supercars. We have a lot of things in mind, and it will be driving on the Nürburgring, it will be driving on the international circuits, just to show the pedigree of the car before going to market. But yeah, it's going to happen on the EV car.
Wow. Very, very interesting. Guys, one last question, we are almost out of time, right? Has, COVID, right, what kind of an impact has it had on the industry, for either of you?
Well, for me, to be honest, it didn't affect as much as other industries. The main thing that it affected is the logistics, the flying, meeting customers coming to do inspection. But for us as manufacturing, it didn't affect us as much, and we're lucky that it did not. This being said, we do see some government budgets changing. As you know, we work a lot with governments, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Interior. A lot of those budgets went from one ministry and they were put into the Ministry of Health, but I see that correcting pretty quickly. But I think we're grateful that we're not in F&B or the service industry, and it wasn't as hard on us. Ralph?
Yeah, for us, it was the complete opposite. It was a disaster, because we're, we rely on the international shows. We're always on the plane. Our cars are always flying around the world, and we work with hundreds of suppliers around the world, for these parts that we get for the car. So some, just within 24 hours, everything stopped. So we had a year where the company literally was on pause. We couldn't manufacture our cars. We couldn't deliver on time for the clients. We couldn't get the suppliers. We couldn't generate more sales for these cars because of the shows that were canceled. So it was a very, very difficult year for us. We managed. Thankfully, we did come out of it much stronger. And this was a big test for all companies to actually see what they were doing wrong before COVID and how we can adjust it and be safe moving forward. But it was a big lesson, but we did get out of it in a very positive way.
Alhamdulillah, right? I'm very, this thing, it was difficult times for everybody. Some benefited and some had challenges with it. Ralph and Tarek, we are almost out of time. I really, really, really appreciate all the feedback that you guys gave to everybody listening into this call and telling them about the kind of challenges that you face as a manufacturing unit, and what are the different thought processes that you guys have in terms of the build that you're further doing, paving the way for the rest of the industry, and how there can be more support from various different aspects to actually help this industry grow more here locally in UAE. So thank you very much for being part of this and sharing your feedback on everything that we do. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you a lot.